be to a reading from the Science of Mind magazine, the Daily Guides. This month's Daily Guides are written, as I mentioned yesterday in the introduction, actually written by Mary Davis, and I'm still reading from the hard copy because I still haven't got my digital version yet. Let's start by taking a deep breath and just letting it go. And to the best extent you can, just be here now, listen to this reading, see what you think of it. I'll tell you what I think of it, and then I'll let you judge for yourselves what you think of it, and also what you think of my interpretation of it. Fair enough? We're instruments of peace. The first quote is from Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, and he's pretty well known in the New Thought arena. He's a former minister, ordained minister with Centers for Spiritual Living, I think as it was then United Church of Religious Science, actually. And then he split off and he produced his own wonderful congregation there in the Los Angeles area. And I've been there, it's definitely a wonderful place. I remember him also mostly from the fact that he produced the visioning idea. And there's actually a book on visioning by Michael Beckwith. The name of his center, I beg your pardon, is Agape, and it's in the Los Angeles area. He said, I anchor to the realm of ever-expanding good on earth. My entire body is in harmony with wholeness. I'm in service to peace and compassion. My heart beats to the will of divine love. As I said, that was Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. And from Ernest Holmes in 365 Science of Mind, he says, the divine presence within me is everlasting love. The divine presence within me is everlasting love. And that's actually on page 89 of 365 Science of Mind. And as you can tell from the title, it's a reading for every day of the year. And this is from our good writer this month. It's hard for me to forget her name because her name is Mary. That was my mother's name, and Davis was the name of a good friend of mine. So Mary Davis is pretty easy to remember, actually. And what else is there in the front? No, nothing else there. She says, years ago, in an ambulance on the way to the emergency room and suffering from a serious illness, I had a near-death experience. My spirit slipped out from the top of my head, and I found myself standing next to one of the paramedics. I was looking down at my own body, calmly viewing the scene. The paramedics were trying to place an IV in my arm, yelling to each other over the siren. I can't get a vein, we're losing her. It was dramatic to watch, and yet I felt no attachment whatsoever to the body of my human self. But something utterly beautiful was unfolding. As I watched them work, I felt an indescribable amount of love for them. It poured out of me in waterfalls of light. I felt the distress as if it were my own. I was an infinite, radiant being of love and compassion, and they too were beings of light. We were made of the same loving magnificence, connected to the same divine source. This feeling of oneness with all beings remains with me until this day. This is who we are, not just after we die, but right here as we live. We are filled with love. We have within us peace and compassion far beyond what we can imagine. And when we slow down our earthly thoughts along our journey to inner peace, we feel a deeper connection to the wise and loving spirits that we are. We are beings of love. We are instruments of peace. Now, unless you're an utter skeptic, that's going to impress you. It impressed me. I've read before about people having near-death experiences. I've read a lot of them, actually. And I'm sure many of you out there have read lots of them. But it seems, because she's our writer for this month, that I'm much nearer to the source of this near-death experience than I am to the ones that I either see on TV or read about in a book. I don't know why, but I just feel a deeper connection to this. And I've never had a near-death experience. Mystical experiences, yes. Near-death experience, no. But I can tell you this, that there's one element that's common to all of these, at least the ones I've read of. Yeah, there's some wacky ones where they had weird experiences and near-death experiences, but most of them, and most mystical experiences, contain the one element that she's talking about today, which is love, which is, I think, in my own personal experience, love is the basis for everything. Peace is wonderful, compassion is wonderful, mercy is wonderful, joy is wonderful, etc., etc. But the one element that is at the source of all of these is love. And I think that once we get back in touch with our true selves, that's what we're getting in touch with. We're getting in touch with love. And if you love, then everything else just flows from it, and everything that's unlike it just dissolves and goes away. Now, this is my take from this reading today, that I'm personally moved by it. It brings back memories to me. It brings back the fact that everything is love. I forget who it was. There was a mystic. He passed away it was in the 20th century. He actually got electrocuted in the Far East. I've forgotten his name. He was a Catholic priest, but he was a mystic. And he said something to the effect that he wished he could tell people that they were all walking around as beings of light. It's not an exact quote, but it's a pretty close quote. For some reason, I can't remember his name right now, but he was a 20th century mystic. He was a Catholic priest. Oh, Merton, that's who it was. It was Merton. So it just came back to me. So what does she give us for an affirmation, and what can I tell you other than this? Before the affirmation, I'll just remind you, Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And I don't know what she's talking about, because she's reading from the Science of Mind textbook. But you will find sprinkled throughout the Science of Mind textbook the word love in lots of different ways that Ernest Holmes has put it there. And one of them is actually the basis for what he explains as God, Spirit, the infinite, the all. He talks about two aspects of the divine, and one is love, and that's the conscious aspect. And then he talks about law, and that's the subconscious or subjective aspect of mind. So let's see what she's given us for affirmations. Oh, remember, these affirmations are personal. They're not something that you are doing in the name of somebody else. They're actually meant for you. And you'll notice that all these affirmations begin with one word, and that's I. They're all personal. They all refer to ourselves individually. Why? Because we're using them to change ourselves. We're using them to change this I. I am an infinite radiant being of love and compassion. I am an infinite radiant being of love and compassion. I move through the world today as an instrument of peace. I move through the world today as an instrument of peace. So, what do you make of this reading? How do you respond to it? How do you react to it? How does it make you feel? What does it do to you? Does it inspire you to do something? Well, with me, it gives me greater confidence in who I really am and not the ego part of myself, but the true infinite self that carries on forever, and that I guess views all this stuff that's going on around here as just a way to further develop the infinite self. And the trappings of everything that's here are just there to assist us further on our evolutionary journey, which, according to Ernest Holmes, will carry on forever. So until next time, namaste.